Measures 66 and 67 have passed, and educators are calling it a huge victory.
The first one raises corporate taxes. The other one raises personal income taxes for people who make $125,000 or more a year.
This is about making an investment in Oregon. You know, we're looking at really supporting kids. We're supporting services that the state needs, and that if we do that, everybody wins.
At a time when most states are slashing services, voters in Oregon set an example for the nation when they approved a plan to raise revenue to protect schools, healthcare, and other public priorities. Progressive allies positioned themselves for victory with a long-term strategy that transformed the state legislature, a strong coalition, and a smart campaign to build public support for a fairer tax structure in Oregon.
And I don't think we had a vision up until post-1995. It was like, get a good contract, settle your grievances, and move on and take what they give you and be happy with it. Now it was like, we can do so much more for working people. We had to choose long-term strategy that involved, dreaming big, thinking big, and raising big money.
In 1999, Local 503 members voted to contribute $2.75 per member each month to an issues fund that helps fend off a tax on public employees and funds campaigns for quality public services.
I wasn't elected until 2002. At that point, it had been a 12-year, very hostile House Republican majority. And we immediately started to talk with SEIU Local 503 about a run, govern, run strategy.
We asked them to run on working families issues, then govern on those issues, and then run for re-election based on their track record of delivering on those issues.
2003, that was the learning point for us to build for 2009. We suffered immensely in terms of cuts to education and human services. We saw a number of thousands of seniors lose home-based care. We didn't want to go through that type of pain and suffering once more for Oregonians.
We had an election in 2004 in which we had to really draw the line with some friends and support some enemies, frankly, who did stand with us on key votes. And the people that didn't stay with us had real trouble. And so it was after that election that we started to gain ground.
Recognizing that the only way to really win on economic and tax fairness was to create a permanent campaign operation, SEIU and the Oregon Education Association partnered with major donors to create Our Oregon in 2005. By 2008, these allies had won a working families majority in the state legislature. Months later, Oregon, along with the rest of the nation, was threatened with drastic budget cuts due to the economic crisis.
Oregon is likely going to be $4 billion short of what it needs to pay for everything from schools and human services to roads.
It took everybody by surprise. 1/3 or more of our general fund was gone, completely gone.
To build a stronger coalition, SEIU deepened relationships with other unions like the NEA and AFSCME and membership organizations like AARP, the Oregon PTA, and even a group that represents nursing home owners.
Early in the legislative session, we kind of laid the ground rules of how we would respect each other's particular concerns.
We had an episode in February when the governor said publicly that the best way to solve this budget crisis is for teachers to work a week for free. But you could see that his goal was to divide the labor from advocates and create a free-for-all. But those that stood together on that question are the ones that brought the campaign forward.
SEIU members, now in statewide bargaining, made a strategic decision to preempt potential attacks and help solve the state's budget problems.
The Service Employees International Union is offering to have union members take 8 unpaid furlough days.
I thought it was a fair thing to do, and I also thought it communicated to the state taxpayer, to all of us, that we're willing to share in that sacrifice.
We went to the legislature ourselves as speakers with prepared testimony. We were able to talk to legislators about key services that had to be maintained.
As bargaining continued, the coalition worked closely with legislators to craft 2 revenue proposals that would protect vital services and fund a fair contract for state employees.
Up with services!
Local 503 members and supporters came together in a massive march in Portland.
Many of the marchers are the caregivers to thousands of Oregonians who rely on them for basic needs.
Most home care workers are willing to try and make a sacrifice for the sake of the people that they're working for, but the people that we're working for are suddenly having the hours that they've been allotted shut down on them.
Allies stuck with Local 503 members throughout negotiations, and in July, state workers agreed to a contract that sacrificed furlough days but protected their fully paid health care. And to prevent the massive budget cuts in human services, the Oregon legislature passed two historic revenue measures.
Measures 66 and 67 require households making over $250,000 and big corporations to pay a little bit more, so we can protect our schools and health care and take the burden off the middle class.
Anti-tax groups turned in petitions to get the tax
Just as
increases
anticipated,
onto the ballot
opponents
in
of the bills
January.
led by business groups like the Oregon Bankers Association had enough signatures to force a recall ballot. They mounted a vicious Vote No campaign.
Raise taxes on individuals and businesses. Economists say these higher taxes will mean thousands more lost jobs. No on 66 and 67.
But coalition supporters were ready.
We're going to be talking to members and non-members today.
In 40 days, this small group will make a huge impact.
Why can't these big corporations pay an extra $150? Why can't these wealthy people who are making $250,000 a year to pay their fair share?
I'm Republican. My wife is Republican. This is a issue about fairness.
The Yes for Oregon campaign had a very sophisticated strategy. Polling shaped an extensive TV ad campaign, but all along they knew they could only win if they were able to talk to thousands of voters in person and make sure they voted.
I'm here to go canvassing for to get the vote out, the yes vote. Talk to some folks and make sure that they got their ballots in and that they understand Measure 66 and 67 and what it's all about.
I want the children to come first. They're our future.
As the election day approached, the Vote Yes campaign knocked on over 350,000 doors, made nearly 1 million phone calls, emailed over 250,000 people weekly, and raised enough funds to overcome the Vote No campaign.
You know, we can't circumvent the education of young people, to me, at any cost.
It has been really exciting to see the breadth of enthusiasm in terms of the sheer numbers of people statewide, but also the depth of that enthusiasm. People coming back day after day, making hundreds and hundreds of calls and hundreds of knocking on doors.
The cuts here would affect my own children who be for the public schools.
Now we want to get to our big local story this morning. Voters have passed both of Oregon's tax measures.
Tonight, we prove not just to Oregon, but to the country that the cause of progress is alive and well.
I think the success here sends a very positive signal of how you can be smart in terms of proposing balanced public policy choices like this. But also, it takes a village that includes strong organizations like SEIU Local 503, business and labor and elected officials, advocacy groups, citizen groups, to come together and advocate, not just during legislative sessions, not just during campaigns, but having a coordinated strategy that runs, governs, and runs going forward for the long term.
Oh, I feel terrific. What a great victory. We worked so hard, the team together, to accomplish these goals.
Certainly in other states, as we look at how to raise revenue, I think that that feature of the Oregon tax package needs to be replicated. Let's make sure that the people who pay more are those who can afford it, and that the people who are truly suffering are protected from the impact of more taxes.
Each of our clients, they're in our hearts and we care about them very much. And kids need to be stood up for, seniors need to be cared for and stood up for. And most vulnerable are the ones that always get cut, and it's not right. And I think we did a good job standing up for them.